Yeah, I think so. We would all be available, obviously, to an incoming administration to provide guidance and support. You learn a lot in 8 years that you want to pass on. I also, even in thinking about I obviously hoped the election would go a different way. I also thought that it was important to step back and let other people take the helm, that you learn a lot in 8 years, and it's important to pass out on that knowledge, but your ideas also may be getting stale, and it's important to let new energy come in. I do think a lot about the institutions of our democracy, right? This sacred notion of the transition of power, which is worthy of being protected. There are lots of other things worthy of being protected. I ended up joining the board of an organization called the Project to Protect Democracy, which was founded by some of our former colleagues from the White House Counsel's Office. And what they did, this very interesting thing, they read a bunch of books about how autocracies start, and kind of identified what the signs are, and then they looked at where are there institutions that are protecting us around those things. So there are institutions which focus on freedom of the press, for example, which is, curtailing freedom of the press is one of the signs. So which signs had people who were watching, and which ones didn't? And then they organized an organization around the things which are important signals, but didn't have institutions who were fighting for them. Things like attacking the civil service. Civil service is really, really important. Things like the executive attacking individuals. Things like the White House not interfering in law enforcement decisions, which is like a really sacred, important principle. You cannot politicize who gets prosecuted or who doesn't get prosecuted. Those should be just law enforcement decisions, and we stayed away from them. Those are norms. They're not laws necessarily, but they are really worth protecting, not to mention like all of the ethics stuff, which is really important, and which seems like the stuff that we had to abide by seems almost quaint in comparison to what's happening now. So I think it's really important that we not take stuff for granted. And I feel like I grew up with people in immigrant communities different from my own who said, we came because we experienced things that don't happen here. And I was naive enough to think that they would never happen here. And I'm clearly not, right? It turns out that's our job. So, whatever it is that you're passionate about, it almost doesn't matter what it is as long as you engage, right? There are plenty of battles to fight. Your job is to pick which one is yours to do. And and that gets back to your question. I thought about that when I was trying to figure out my next job, too. I hadn't looked for a job really in like 25 years. I had no idea how to do it. I
Terrible resume, too.
Spent a lot of time... But I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what I had to listen to myself with respect to what do I think is mine to do right now. And that turned out to be a useful way to think about it, right? The Lord knows there's enough work, enough tough stuff to go around. But what is it that you know about, care about, are passionate about, will be willing to throw yourself into and make the sacrifices that are necessary? Because you will be good at that. You will make the most difference at that, whatever it is.